Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you each and every week. Thought I'd jump on and do a little kind of like a Liverpool update news kind of show. We're a week now nearly into the World Cup, but there's been a lot of news away from the World Cup in terms of Liverpool and stuff like that. As we know, the club is now up for sale or seeking huge investment, but I'd say more up for sale. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on that tonight. We'll talk about Jude Bellingham as well and the transfer news and all that stuff that's going around. We're just over a month away, maybe a month and a half away from the transfer window starting. So that'll start to take momentum as talk begins and stuff like that. We know Liverpool apparently are already in talks with Jude Bellingham's representatives. So we'll have a quick chat about that. A little bit of World Cup watch. We'll talk about our players there at the moment and what we think, how they're getting on and stuff like that. Um, Obviously the sad passing of the Doc David Johnson. We'll talk about him and stuff. This Saudi Arabia investment where they want to invest in both Liverpool and Man United coming up for sale. So we'll quick talk about that. And then we get the news Julian Ward is leaving at the end of the season, the man who only succeeded Michael Edwards 6 months ago or something like that. But also the director of research, Ian Graham, is leaving as well. So there's a lot going on there in the background in Liverpool at the moment. So we'll share our thoughts on that. Um, and we'll give a quick update. Queeveen obviously keeping a clean sheet with Northern Bet Malta. But let's start. Let's start with the club sale. Interesting when this came out. The news was broke by David Ornstein. But it was an interesting. I don't think anyone's seen it coming and stuff like that. This came out of nowhere. And it was kind of then backtracked a little bit and worded that they would be looking for a sale or potential investment. So obviously it was a sale, but they were trying to backtrack. But I'd say the club is up for sale, I would imagine. Um, my thoughts on this at the moment are where FSG has done a really, really good job in terms of the commercial side of the business and generating the revenues and the investments and the sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. Where they've lacked their focus is in the investment in the squad and in the players and in, taking Liverpool to the next level in terms of on the pitch, especially with the success that we had with the league and the Champions League and all that kind of stuff. We really should have kicked on from that, but we didn't. So that's where the club has kind of let us down. Obviously, the European Super League didn't sit well with us as Liverpool fans either, and obviously trying to trademark the different trademarks and the issue with the season tickets and all that kind of stuff, various things that they tried to do, didn't sit well with us at all. Um, I don't know how I feel about a club sale at the moment. It looks like FSG have probably brought the club as far as they can bring it, and they now recognise that apart from the investment in the infrastructure and all that kind of thing, that there's huge investment still to be done in terms of the playing side of things now, that the squad needs huge investment in it. And I don't know whether they have the desire to push the button on that basically at this stage. And I think that's where they're looking now at the moment. Obviously, they're staring down the barrel of the next 18 months. The news doesn't look too good. The forecasts are for a recession and potentially a depression, which means that revenues will definitely drop, because people simply won't have the money to be going to football. And in terms of hospitality and stuff like that and the pricing of it and stuff like that, most of the average fans are nearly priced out of going to games and stuff like that unless you're a season ticket holder. So they're going to see a drop certainly in revenues and stuff like that, I would imagine, with this onset, where the world economy is trying to reconfigure itself, if you like, and people's priorities will change. So I think they're looking at that as well. They're also looking at the weakening of the dollar, um, and the strengthening of the pound and stuff like that might be a good time to cash in. So that's obviously another thing I'm sure they're looking at. Um, and yeah, it's just it depends. Like, I mean, who are they going to sell it to? And are we looking at like a Saudi Arabian investment? Are we looking at Dubai? Are we looking at another American investment? Are we looking at a European consortium? There's lots of stuff has been floating around over the last few weeks in relation to this. And it's kind of hard to know where you sit on it as a Liverpool fan. I know most football fans out there are very passionate about their club and they love their club and stuff like that and all. But I mean, at the end of the day, how would it sit with Liverpool fans in terms of, if there was a state-backed, state-owned kind of investment thing that took it over, or, for lack of a better word, oil money or something like that, would we feel okay about it? Is that what we need now? Is that what it's going to take to compete with the Man Cities of this world and the bigger European clubs and stuff like that? Have we been left behind somewhat? And are we going to need that kind of wealth in there in order to bring Liverpool onto the next stage? And then I suppose the question comes up then as well. We've seen what the gaffer has said, Jurgen, and how he feels about these state-backed, state-owned clubs, to the point where some people would say he nearly has an obsession with Man City and with Newcastle. So the question is, if a state-owned, if FSG decide to cash in, and I know that they want to put the club into the right hands and all and stuff like that. But the reality for these businessmen is the right hands for them is, whoever ponies up the most amount of money in reality. And I just don't know where that sits. If that went down that road, would we see a situation where we could potentially lose Jurgen as well, because it might not sit with him, depending on who the owners are and stuff like that. And that would really destabilize the club. So there's a lot to think about in terms of this sale, and it's kind of like, I know we have issues with FSG and stuff like that, but it's going to be careful what you wish for. But I think certainly the approach of, the Moneyball approach and the different things that they've done in the market and the kind of stuff we've been lucky with and got away with and stuff like that. We've been very clever with our signings, and, most of them have worked out really, really well. But we've sat back and we've aged the squad, and we've kind of stagnated a little bit in terms of the refreshment of the squad and the investment that we should have made in a good run. And considering the deals that we have signed and the revenues we've created and the profitability of the club and all that kind of thing, and that coupled with the training facility that's now in place and also expanding the ground all the time, improving the capacity all the time. So that's where it kind of lies with me. I'm not too sure how I'd feel about it. Look, I'll always support Liverpool Football Club. I've supported them since I was 6 years of age. So I've been supporting them for the guts of 40 odd years at this stage. I'm not going to change that now. And I can't really throw shade at some of these countries in terms of what they're doing, or, their kind of stance on things and stuff like that. If I'm pulling on, my Nike gear or my Adidas gear or whatever it is. So I can't really throw shade at that, really, because I know the background to this other stuff. Sorry, get out. The old what should I say? The old mascot of the podcast, trying to get in and out of the room all the time. But yeah, I'll park it there at the moment on the sale, because I don't know what way it's really going to work out. I don't know what route it's going to go. I know it's probably going to take a bit of time. I know FSG will take their time. They'll certainly want the best price for their buck, as they say. Let's talk a little bit about transfers, and let's talk the hysteria around Jude Bellingham at the moment and what's going on there and stuff like that, and prices being thrown around anywhere from 80 to 150 million. And obviously the more he performs for England and the better he performs, the price kind of changes and fluctuates. And it'll be interesting to see if we really are in the business of this. And this may coincide with the sale of the club or the takeover or whatever, because this is not a deal that I see sitting in the palette of FSG. I don't see FSG ponying up that type of money for a midfielder or anything like it. And I think we'd be hard pressed to see them do it. So I think the Jude Bellingham deal, if it's going to happen, I don't think it's going to happen on FSG's watch. I think the sale of the club would have to happen in order for it to happen. We've also been linked, though. I mean, there's been talk of being linked with Declan Rice. Certainly a player I would love to see at the club, an excellent midfielder. and certainly would make a huge difference in terms of the midfield we have there at the moment. And we've also been linked with Mason Mount. That's one I'm not too sure about. I know we know kind of how good Mason Mount can be, but more often than not, his performances kind of drop. He doesn't perform at there's not a consistency out of him. I think with Mason Mount, you either get a 9 or you get a 4, and it's kind of similar to what I've spoke about with Naby Keita. With Naby Keita, you don't get that 7 to 8 every match in terms of a rating. You tend to either get a really bad rating of a 3 or a 4, or you get a 9, and never the two shall meet. And that would be my concern with Mason Mount as well. I mean, ultimately, I think Declan Rice will probably stay in London, and probably end up going to Chelsea. We know Mason Mount has turned down a couple of contract offers at Chelsea, but I expect them to get that done. I'd be surprised to see Mason Mount away from Chelsea. Would be quite the shock. But that's kind of the transfer news that's floating around. Not surprising that we're linked with a number of midfielders. It's certainly where we need the work done. I think in defence, I think we're reasonably covered and okay. And I think up front, I think once we get everyone back fit and all, I think we're really reasonably covered and okay there. But the midfield is where we need that root and branch treatment basically at the moment. Not only in terms of starting 11, but in terms of competition from the bench on the level at we're operating at. I think at this stage, I think we're carrying a bit too much. The likes of Ox and all, I think it's time they moved on. Let's talk about World Cup player watch at the moment. Alisson, of course, starting out really strong. Konate as well. France, obviously, today. First team to qualify for the next round. Mbappe, at times when he turns it on, he's absolutely sensational. Also, Virgil. Had a reasonable start. The Dutch, I mean, they weren't absolutely brilliant, but got there in the end and got the job done. But Cody Gakpo he looks sensational, doesn't he? He looks an unbelievable player at the moment. A lot of teams are going to be targeting him after this World Cup. But then Fabinho, of course, who hasn't been used yet for Brazil. Hendo, who came on briefly for the England last night against the US in a really, really poor job affair. And it really shows that at the heart of that England team, if they want to be successful and go on and win major tournaments, they really have to get in a coach that plays really to their strengths and kind of a progressive, more attacking football style. Last night was a definition of that. Like, the situation Grealish coming on when he did, and Foden, and just I don't know. I don't know what Southgate does be looking at that the rest of us do be looking at, and you can see the English fans now totally frustrated. They know what's ahead of them. They'll probably qualify out of the group, but then depending on the draw for the 16 or the quarterfinals, that's where they'll come unstuck, because they'll come up against good teams. And Southgate basically will shit the bed, and he won't put out the teams that he should be putting out, and he won't take that risk and go on the offensive and go on the attack. If he had done that last night 20 minutes earlier, he probably would have ground out a win. So yeah, that's kind of just a quick round out of the World Cup watch on the players at the moment. All the players seem to be doing reasonably well. Trent obviously not used either, which is shocking really. It's a shame that they wouldn't throw him on and give him an opportunity and stuff like that. I'm sure he definitely would have offered you something different or a bit more in terms of what Trippier offered you yesterday. And even if you wanted to make a change in the midfield, why not try him in midfield and throw him in there and see what he does? You know what I mean? You're gonna have to beat the Welsh anyway, so what difference would it make? So it's a bit of a waste of time really, and it must be frustrating for a guy like Trent. He's going to be away from his family for a whole month, and basically just there making up the numbers. It's a tough task. Darwin, we seen playing for Uruguay. They looked a little bit off it as well against Korea the other day, South Korea. So they need to up their game with their up and coming matches and stuff like that. Need to put in a shift. I did know that Suarez looked a little bit off. He didn't look his usual fit self. Looked like he was carrying a little bit of baggage, let's say. But Darwin, they're going to need a little bit more work there, Uruguay. They have some great players. Valverde was exceptional the other day. He was very unlucky, actually, with the one that just flew over the crossbar. But the way he took it down and controlled and stuff like that, you can see the quality. And as these teams train more together and play more together, you'll see they'll come into their own and stuff like that. And I would expect a big performance out of Uruguay coming up. So we'll see how Darwin goes, and we'll keep an eye on the rest of the Liverpool players as the World Cup progresses. Don't know what your thoughts are on it so far. It's kind of it's a real weird one. I was talking to people yesterday about it. And like when you're watching the World Cup, before you watch it, you watch the build-up. And the build-up is all about the negativity, isn't it? The build-up is all about the migrant workers, human rights, the treatment of women, all this kind of stuff, all the homophobic stuff and the LGBTQ and all that kind of stuff and all it's and then because you listen to all that, you get so down about it that it's hard to let yourself then enjoy the football when the match kicks off. Um, and it's been kind of weird. It's been dampened down. We've seen that they've been posting like attendances that aren't true, and you know, posting like 67,000 capacities into stadiums, the whole 60,000, and they're not even full, and fans leaving halfway through games and all this kind of stuff. We've seen today. It'll be interesting to see going forward how it works now with Qatar being eliminated out of the competition. Will they all go back to their normal day-to-day kind of stuff now, and will we see an even further shrinkage of attendance? Let's see what happens there. So I don't know what your thoughts are on it. It's been kind of, there's been a number of moments in it so far, some really, really good stuff. The French game was awesome. The Spanish were unbelievable. Obviously, England's first game against Iran was unbelievable. Had it been quite flat and quite stale, and you see, like, it's great to see Saudi Arabia getting that win, and it's great to see Japan, getting their win and stuff like that, and all. It looks really, really cool. But I don't know. There's just something about this one that just isn't sitting right with me at the moment. It just feels kind of weird. It's like I can't let myself get into enjoying the actual football and the festival of football as much and as hard as I try. But sure, look, I'm sure we'll get over that, and I'm sure the World Cup will be dissected when it's all done and dusted. So all we can do for the next couple of weeks of enjoy it and get through it and stuff like that. Bit of sad news that we got this week. The Doc David Johnson has passed away. 4 leagues, 3 European Cups, 2 League Cups, 1 Super Cup. An incredible player. And the man with Peter Beardsley, who holds the record for scoring winning goals on both sides of the Merseyside derby, both for Everton and for Liverpool. And just an interesting stat there in relation to him and stuff like that. But our thoughts and prayers go out to the Johnson family and stuff like that, and the wider Liverpool community. I've seen posts from Phil Thompson and Aldo and all these guys. This guy was much loved in the club and stuff like that. Attended the matches regularly, and I've seen posts from Terry McDermott and guys like that and all. This guy was well thought of and stuff like that and all. So our thoughts and condolences go out to the wider family of David Johnson, and of course anyone related to him and stuff like that. So thoughts and prayers with him. So another loss. We touched on the sale and the ownership and stuff like that, but Saudi Arabia wants its investors to own Liverpool and Man United. I don't know. What do people think of this? Obviously Man United was announced that it's for sale as well. They're seeking a sale. And I just don't know. I'm beginning to worry what direction football is going in with so much of this, say, wealth and oil money, let's say, for lack of a better word, coming into it and stuff like that. And where will we see football in 10, 15 years and stuff like that with this kind of wealth coming into it and stuff like that? Or is the normal everyday kind of fan going to be really priced out of the game and stuff like that? What's their intention? And how does the Premier League and the FA deal with that as well? When you've got so many of these big wealthy families coming out of those regions, coming in to buy these clubs and take control of them and stuff like that. Is it a power play? Do we know? Not too sure. Could you see a situation where you have investors in Saudi Arabia both owning Liverpool and Man United? I'm not too sure whether the league could let that happen or not. I don't think that would sit. Especially what we see already with Man City and Newcastle and stuff like that. I just don't know what way it's going to go and stuff like that. But they seem hell bent on getting involved in terms of this with their investors and stuff. And we're talking about investors here that are state-backed investors as well. So there's no end to this money. This is money way beyond the magnitude of what we can even imagine and stuff like that. So yeah, real concern. And it's concern that they were so forthright in coming out as well, saying that like it was Man United and Liverpool they want to own. They want both clubs, arguably two of the biggest clubs in the world as well. So we'll see again, like the club sale and stuff like that. We'll have to see how this thing progresses and what way it sits with us and stuff like that. And it's something to think about for the future. Then we got news this week that Julian Ward has decided to leave the club at the end of the season. Michael Edwards left, as you know, back in June, I think it was. Julian took over. Michael Edwards, what an exceptional job he did at Liverpool with some of the sales and the incomings and stuff like that. He was a phenomenal director of football. But Julian took over. Julian had worked with Michael Edwards for a number of years. He took over, but after 6 months, he's decided he wants to go. Now, we're hearing that there was talk that the club about Jurgen Klopp tried to convince him to stay. I don't know whether that's true or not. And we're also hearing now that the director of research in Graham is also due to leave as well. So we're wondering is that department doing a certain job and bringing targets and recommendations to the board and to the owners and stuff like that, and are they just being ignored so the boys are just questioning themselves, or is it a case of something else? Just want to get rid of these spams in the chat. So yeah, there you go, blocked. But yeah, is it a case that is something going on behind the scenes there? There's a lot of changes. Very unusual. This came out of nowhere. The club was probably quite shocked at this. Julian Ward only in that top position there for 6 months. Is he leaving out of frustration? Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird one. Is this a play? Does Jurgen want to get more involved in it now? Does he want to have a bigger say in it and stuff like that? Are we looking at a situation now where clubs are potentially going to go back to the old scouting ways and drop a lot of this research and stuff like that? And it's all well and good looking at the research and the information and the analytics on the page and stuff like that. But does that really replace you going out and watching a player play? And see how he plays and integrates with his team, and would that fit and integrate into your own team in terms of scouting? I'm not too sure. Is this a different move from the club? Are the club going to appoint a new the director of football and appoint a new director of research? We know how brilliant Ian Graham was as well. He's top notch in terms of director of research. Have both boys been offered jobs somewhere else that's more appealing to them? Has Michael Edwards in the background maybe come looking to bring these guys in? Maybe if he's going to take a position in Chelsea or somewhere else, that he wants that such a successful team behind him again. Maybe, who knows? All we know is at the moment we have a club that's either up for sale or seeking huge investment, and we have a number of positions in the background that now need to be filled, or potentially is there going to be a change in structure at the club with the gaffer taking more responsibility for those kind of things. Let's see. But certainly it's a little bit worrying at the moment. There's a little bit of upheaval there at the minute. We certainly are losing key guys in terms of the functioning, the background functioning of the club, and in terms of recruitment and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to wait and see what comes out of that as well. We're still trying to get a club doctor over the line. So now it's a doctor, a director of football, and a director of research, not to mention anything else. So there's three. So yeah, very concerning. Still can't put it together yet. It's only been 6 months. We can't understand what's driving the decision from Julian Ward. There has to be something in the background there. And we had a feeling, even with the way the window went in the summer and stuff like that, there was something going on in the background there. It wasn't quite right. And then the denial of needing a midfield shake-up, and it didn't happen. And then last minute they tried to do it, and they bring in Arthur Mello, and it's just if you're doing your homework there, Arthur Mello's not the guy that you bring in and stuff like that. It's just thing is just a mess. We look back at this week, back in 1952, the great Ronnie Moran made his debut. What a player he would go on to be. 379 appearances for the club and an absolute vital part of it, and also later on as part of the boot room setup. So this week back in 1952, Ronnie Moran made his debut for Liverpool. What a player. Then we talk about Queeveen. Queeveen was in nets for Ireland there last week, when we bet Malta 1-0. Probably the hardest game of international football you'd ever want to watch. Ireland at the moment just so blunt. An absolute drab affair, running out 1-0 winners with an error pass back that we latched onto and stuff like that. But we also have for our non-Irish viewers, we have a toy show over here every year on TV. It's part of the Late Late Show, a big show that's been running here for decades and decades at this stage now. And we've always done this toy show in the build up to Christmas where all families get together and they sit down and they preview all the latest toys, and all the boys and girls will go off. They make their list for Santa and stuff like that. But Queeveen was on there last night and he was in nets. A fella came out blindfolded and took a penalty on him and scored. Just a bit of fun, really. And I think Queeveen gave away a trip to Liverpool to see a match and stuff like that. And so it's great to see him on there doing a bit. It's nice to see that they have that bit of downtime to come home as well and get involved in that kind of stuff. It must have been a proud moment for his family as well to see their son and their brother, be on the Late Late Toy Show, something that's such an iconic show and enshrined in the history of Irish TV, if you like. So it was brilliant to see him there, and he was brilliant. He embraced it greatly and stuff like that. The gaffer might have had an eyebrow raised when he seen the penalty go in, but he knows the background to it, so it's all good and all fun there. So that's it, just a little bit of a news roundup and stuff like that. We'll bring it to you over the next few weeks and stuff like that as the World Cup progresses. Obviously, we'll be covering the Dubai Cup that they're going to play and stuff like that. We'll also be covering on Monday the FA Cup draw. So we'll see what way that goes. As we know, we've Man City in the Carabao Cup, so we're not starting out our defence of that with an easy task at all. But we'll see who we draw in the FA Cup as well. That should be interesting. And we'll bring you the usual. If you check out the channel, we're bringing you shorts every morning with our predictions. My predictions, by the way, are an absolute disaster. I'm getting some of the results right, but I'm not getting the scores right at all. Some of these things are blunt at the moment. But look, we're having fun doing it. And I said to people on TikTok the other day, I don't really care whether I get them right or not. I'm just having fun doing it. I'm trying to build up this fun and get me into this World Cup, get me enjoying it, But yeah, that's it. That's your latest roundup of news for Liverpool. As always, if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification. And of course, let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts on the World Cup so far. Let us know your thoughts on how the players are getting on. Let us thoughts on the background stuff that's going on, and also the sale of the club, what your thoughts are on that. And we will talk to you again real soon. Cheers, guys.